Hello and welcome back to today's feature-length video looking at the origins of the Listen program. I'm going to take you back to 2015 and some of the major influences on the program, why I created the program, and its influences and applicability in our daily lives. In 2015, I became obsessed because I started looking at French music composers and how they created music in the 1970s. So these composers were known as spectralists, and the literature I was reading was talking about the stretching and the contraction of time. And in the same breath, I started to realize that when we stretch or contract time or sound, so to speak, we're automatically talking about silence. But silence does not exist. And it was the American composer John Cage who was able to illustrate the reasons why silence does not exist. So we'll delve into that in a couple of minutes, but I would like to highlight for you the fact that when I talk about sound, I'm talking about silence, and when I talk about silence, I talk about sound. Silence, I start to refer to this principle as stillness. Because even in the stillness, we can still hear things. It can be birdsong, it can be the wind, it could be the faintest noise, which could be kilometers away from you, but you still happen to hear that sound. So when I look at influences on my work, John Cage is the starting point because he visited an anechoic chamber at Harvard University in 1951. When he stepped into that chamber, he thought he wouldn't be able to hear anything. He probably also thought that he could prove the existence of silence, but that was so far from the truth. What he heard was two distinct different sounds. So after he stepped out of the chamber, he asked the engineer what was it that he heard, and it was explained to him that what he was hearing was the sound of his blood circulating in his body, and the other sound he heard was his own nervous system. So the nervous system was a high sound that he heard, and the low sound that he heard was the blood circulating in his body. And that is why he coined the phrase that there is no such thing as silence. Silence does not exist. And that is exactly why I prefer to speak of stillness. Stillness, in a way, describes the quiet a lot better, because there will always be something that we are hearing. Sometimes it could be even our own breath. Sometimes it can be our own heartbeat. We just have to be open enough to listen. So this is John Cage. Stepping away from him, another big influence on my work was the work of Pauline Oliveros. She coined the phrase deep listening, and she did an excellent job in explaining how deep we can go with our listening. Now, her work would have been heavily influenced by the indigenous cultures of Australia, because they also talk about deep listening. And this is something that so many of us can delve into, and this is why I created the program. So when I talk about the Listen program, I think, okay, we need to unpack stillness first, which we have done. But now we need to understand that when we talk about listening, we're talking about a fundamental approach to life. All of us were born with the ability to listen. We just have to be willing to practice that process of listening. So when we're breaking down the process of listening, we are talking about sound. When we're talking about sound, we're also talking about other noises around us. And then when we're talking about sound, we're automatically circling back to stillness. And when we're circling back to stillness, we're completing the loop by bringing the act of listening back into the conversation. So it creates this 3-dimensional loop. So when I delve into listening, I'm asking you 3 main questions. And the first one is, how do we listen to sound, stillness, or noise? The second question is, how do we interact with sound, stillness, or noise? And the third question is, how do we work with sound, stillness, or noise? The reason why I'm asking these questions is because it becomes a 4-dimensional process. But to understand this 4-dimensional process, we have to understand that we are all part of this earth. We are all part of this universe. And because we're part of this earth and part of this universe, we're part of the circle of life. And in that circle of life, we always have a beginning and we always have an end. Our stories have a beginning and an end. So does sound, stillness, noise, even conversations. There's always a beginning and there's always an end. And to understand both ends of these concepts and ideas and elements of life, we have to go back to listening. So what I'm telling you is that the Listen program gives you so many possibilities, so many different answers. It even gives you moments in life where you may even feel like you're feeling more grounded. At the end of the day, it is up to each and every one of us as to how we will be interacting with ourselves, with others around us, even our animals, even our natural world. It's up to us. And I can't dictate to you how to listen, and I can't tell you how to be. These are things that we learn as we become older. So the question should be, are we really listening? And if we are, that's awesome. If we are not, what are we missing out on? That's the thing. If we're not really listening, we are missing out on experiences. We are missing out on getting to know someone. We are missing out on lessons that we can learn, that we can pass on to the next generation. Let's take it a step further. The Listen program and the act of listening should actually be a way of grounding ourselves. Because listening is such an ingrained and natural process that we were born with. So by doing the listening program, you're giving yourself that chance and the space to ground yourself, to feel like you're finding the space in your own mind where you can think clearly as well. What happens when we're grounding ourselves is we're opening ourselves up to those abilities of paying full attention, 100% attention to the person that we're with, 100% attention to ourselves and what we need in order to thrive. So it means we're talking about focus, and in some cases about commitment. The commitment to someone else, the commitment that says, I'm here with you, I'm here to listen, I am here to learn with you and to grow with you. And this is what the program can help with. The question is what do you want to gain out of the process itself? When I talk about the Listen program, we're talking about that 4-dimensional process that I've spoken of just a few minutes before. And that 4-dimensional process includes yourself, space, time, the universe, energy, and in some cases even another person. So now we're adding to these dimensions, and it becomes this really interactive process that does not require any music, it does not require any fancy technology. All it asks of you is 5 things, 5 main principles or pillars of listening. And those 5 pillars are an openness of the mind, a willingness to explore the inner workings of your own physical body, an awareness of your external environment, energy, and focus. The benefits of the program in each individual's life will depend on how open you are to new ideas. An openness to learning about yourself and the world around you. This is why an openness of the mind is important before you start the program. It also asks the individual to let go of what we think sound is. It asks us to let go of what we think stillness is, or what silence is, and everything else that happens in between these moments in life. The willingness to explore how you listen with your physical body enriches the process itself, and it shows the individual how connected they can become by purely listening to what their body is telling them. An awareness of the environment around you is where the program starts. It's where you become comfortable with what is happening around you, and then we start to delve into the finer details of the sounds and how we can focus in on them. Essentially, it's about listening to everything around you. This includes sounds or noises that you like. It may be sounds or noises that you don't like, while you become familiar with the natural world that's happening and living around you every day. We need these natural elements of our planet to thrive. And we need to be aware of these elements because it benefits and enriches our life. Energy comes from our physical body. And how we treat our bodies determine how we listen. It determines how we carry ourselves. It determines how we can process information. So we have to pay attention to the energy that's happening inside of us and around us. It means also that these daily activities ultimately influence how we communicate, especially when we're very tired or when we are very rested, or any other energy level in between determines how we will be listening to someone else. These daily activities ultimately influence how we communicate with others, even our animals, especially when we are very tired or when we have gained that rest that we really needed. For some people, when they start this 7-step process, they may find that they can focus quite easily. But for others, it will be the other way around, where they start the process, and by the end of it, that clear focus is more pronounced at the end of the program. So it depends from individual to individual. So it means that the program is very organic. It adapts itself to whatever the individual need. The main benefits of the program have been covered in other videos. What I would like to emphasize and highlight is the fact that the program can help you to feel grounded and in some cases help you to think a little bit clearer. Something else that's really great about the program is the fact that you don't need to have online resources to do it. All you need is a space where you can sit down and start listening. You don't even need music. It's just about listening. So we're stripping away all these other layers of thinking around listening that so many industries and so many different professions have tried to explain to people. What this program does is it strips all of that away and it takes you to that bare, basic, essential process of listening. Opening up your mind and listening. Now, what you may also find is as you do the program, that other aspects of your daily life may start to feel like you can handle it a bit better, whatever it may be. I have found benefits that's not always easy to put into words, but for me at this stage, the grounding aspect of the program is really standing out. And the program has really pushed me to look into the space of stillness and how stillness affects our life and how badly we really need stillness. So for everybody, the outcomes are different. So you're welcome to leave messages, you're welcome to write in and tell us, how is the program helping you? Because there's just so many possibilities. While you're waiting for the next video to be released, feel free to listen to our music on SoundCloud at Botha Music or Spotify at Botha, and keep an eye out for more announcements and more projects being released in 2024. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.